What's your first memory?
Him tickling my arm and giving me hugs.
Was he a good dad?
Yeah.
Dakota Williams, 2 years old and blissfully unaware of the dark criminal world of her father, Carl Williams.
Fun.
But now she's 15 and she knows what he did.
And what about the people who called your dad a killer? What would you say to them?
Well, that's obviously what they're going to think, because that's how he's been put out there and made to look. But he wasn't like that. If you spoke to him and got to know him, you'd think he's not that sort of person. And you can tell that he did it for his family.
Soon after this home video was taken, Carl Williams was sent to prison for multiple murders. It's where Dakota got to know her dad.
He would always tell me to be nice to Mum and treat Mum good. Never be mean to her, because you only get one Mum.
And were you good?
Yeah, I think so.
From jail, Carl would regularly call to speak to Dakota.
Carlos, how are you, buddy?
Where is she?
She's gone to school. Rob ended up taking her.
What'd she say?
No, she just waited and sat on the couch and waited for you.
Killer Carl Williams, a father missing his daughter.
She wrote me a letter.
Oh, did she?
She said, "Hello, Dad. I love you."
Oh, don't.
This is Carl Williams' actual prison computer. The secrets within are about to be unlocked. And Carl Williams' password is his daughter's name, Dakota.
DAKOTA_.
On this old Windows machine, the killer wrote hundreds of secret letters to friends and family.
Well, hello there, my little princess. How are you?
Loving letters to his daughter.
I hope you've been behaving yourself. I've been looking after your teeth.
By brushing twice a day, you better be. Lots and lots of love, your loving father.
If they seen us how we actually are, they'd probably think a lot differently.
Drug dealer, multiple murderer, Carl Williams.
He was a symbol of Melbourne's bloody underworld war.
One of Victoria's worst ever killers.
Always with a smile.
Where to from here? Something to eat and something to drink, that's all.
Now, for the first time, a voice from the grave.
Yeah, I did what I did, and nothing I, nor anyone does, will ever change that.
What he really felt and wrote about life, his family, and crime.
Dear Roberta, I trust this letter finds you in the very best of health and spirits, as it leaves me fine.
Now, after a fierce court battle with police, his ex-wife, Roberta Williams, has obtained Carl's jail computer and all the letters.
You might think I have a lot of people, but honestly, I don't. I have you, my dad, and the kids. You are the people who I trust with anything and everything.
But not all is sweet.
I simply kill people who were planning to kill me.
6 years after Carl died, are you now finally learning more about the man you married?
Yes. And it shocks me. Some things I've read in the computer has kind of shocked me that he could look me in the face and be one person, and I've read stuff and he's another.
You never saw that side of him?
No.
I'm the first to admit that I wish I could turn back time, and what happened never did. I did what I suspect any man would do.
Throw it. Throw it.
When Dakota was a young girl, Carl Williams doted on her. He'd bring her here to feed the ducks in Moonee Ponds.
I was feeding the ducks and feeding my dad the bread as well.
Dakota, look at the man. Look at the man.
What do you think of when you watch that?
It's so cute.
But in those years, Carl Williams was at his drug-dealing criminal height. one of Melbourne's most active producers and dealers of methamphetamines and ecstasy.
Could you imagine a Carl who's a loving father?
Well, he may well be. I don't dispute the fact that he probably loved his kids. It doesn't excuse him being a monster to the rest of society.
As the head of the Piranha Task Force, which investigated the gangland killings, Detective Jim O'Brien got to know the criminal Carl Williams better than anyone.
Carl Williams started off basically as a fairly low-level criminal from out of Broadmeadows and reached the meteoric rise through drug trafficking and the quick accumulation of cash. And, of course, once they've got cash, they've got that ability to control other people and make them do their bidding, which is what he did.
In his time here at Barwon Prison, Carl Williams wrote hundreds of deeply intimate letters to friends, family and criminal associates, stripping back the layers of his gangland persona. Carl Williams spells out what triggered Melbourne's bloody battle for control of the drug trade.
I'm no saint, but the people I killed were far worse people than I will ever be.
According to Carl Williams, in his letters, the gangland wars started right here. It was Carl's 29th birthday.
Just for a moment, please try putting yourself in my shoes. It was my 29th birthday. I didn't have a worry in the world. Life was good. That is, until I met someone whom I thought was a friend of mine.
It all began, he writes, when he went to meet two of the Moran brothers, Jason and Mark, fellow drug dealers who became his fiercest rivals.
Mark and I had been friends. He was supposed to give me half of whatever money he made through my contacts while I was in prison, which I thought was a win-win for both of us.
But according to Carl, Mark Moran had never shared the $2 million he'd made, while Williams served a stretch in jail.
I was made to feel like a beggar.
Every time you argue with me, the price goes up.
Carl was making ecstasy tablets. Mark was trying to buy more chemicals off Carl, but he had already owed Carl money.
Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Mark smashed me across the head with a baton which broke on impact.
He said Jason was pointing a gun at him and Jason's hand was shaking like he had Parkinson's.
I have no doubt that if Jason had a steady hand and a set of balls, I would not be here today telling you my side of the story. Jason then held that gun against my stomach and shot me at close range.
Carl Williams lived. The gangland wars began.
And, of course, he had a hatred for them ever after that period and, swore that he would seek revenge, and he certainly did. I mean, there's none of them left.
8 months after Carl was shot, it was Mark Moran's turn. Someone shot him here outside his flash house in Aberfeldy with a sawn-off shotgun.
Moran! What?
Mark Moran died. The shooter fled.
One could and would say that I got in first. There's no doubt that I was in a kill or be killed situation.
3 years later, in 2003, time ran out here for Mark Moran's brother, Jason.
Righto, you kids, let's go.
A gunman in a balaclava fronted him here in a car park overlooking a junior football field. 5 kids, including Moran's twins, were in the back of the van.
We all plugged in, kids?
Yes. Well, he was behind ordering that killing. It was a classic example of how he used others to do his dirty work because he probably lacked the intestinal fortitude to do it himself.
Doing it in front of children just takes it to a whole new level, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does, and I've got no doubt that those children it's something they will never get over.
Were you happy he was killed?
Well, at the time I said yes, reflecting back on all the lives lost now and his life, and thinking of who gets hurt in the motion of all this, it's quite sad and disturbing to think,
Roberta Williams justified the killing, even though it happened in front of 5 children.
I don't have to answer anyone's questions. you don't, Carl.
This is vultures, though. Come on, someone's just died.
She didn't blame Carl.
But he ordered the murder.
He allegedly ordered the murder, yeah.
Allegedly, or did?
Well, he did, so...
Does that make it better that he said not in front of kids?
No, it doesn't make it better at all. Murder's murder. Now, you know, you look, like I said, I look at it totally different now. You know, to kill somebody is... It's just not on. Nobody's got any right to take anybody's life.
His family and friends just see it as survival, just trying to protect them and himself. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I don't see how you can make that excuse on his behalf to his children and say, well, your dad was really a good bloke, he just had this, you know, attitude to killing people. It's inexcusable behaviour.
Well, they say it was to protect them.
It's not justification.
At the height of the gangland killings, Carl Williams rang broadcaster Darren Hinch.
I've never had nothing to do with no violence. I've never been caught with no guns. I've never owned anything like that.
Have you ever been involved in trafficking drugs?
No.
Are you saying you're a clean skin?
Yeah, I'm telling you, I don't get involved in anything.
How do you remember Carl?
As just a loving, caring dad.
That's hard for people to get their heads around. How do you convince people of that side of him?
I don't need to convince anyone. As long as I know, then, like, that's all that matters, really. As long as we know what he was like.
Throw it. Throw it.
In the midst of the mayhem, 36 gangland murders in 10 years, was Dakota, Carl Williams' daughter. Dakota, now 15, remembers it as a happy time.
Growing up, has that been difficult for you both?
Yeah. Like, friends' parents, what they think of us. Like, not letting their kids come over and things like that. But they don't really know what we're like. Like, we're normal. We're good people. Maybe it doesn't seem like that, but we are.
This song is dedicated to Dakota.
Back in the early 2000s, for a while, life for the kids had a glamorous unreality. This was Dakota's christening at Melbourne's Crown Casino.
The christening was huge. I had it at Crown. Cost me $150,000.
Carl Williams called himself the Premier. Roberta's dress cost $7,000. Dakota's, $4,000.
I flew in Brian Cadd to sing Little Ray of Sunshine live for her, because we say that's her song.
I think it's obscene, really. I don't think it's seductive. I mean, that's just a show of a flashy show. I mean, what possible reason would you go down that path? Other than to show people you've amassed this fortune, you've got the ability to control things. That's the only reason they do that.
But for the kids, this life was normal.
How do you think people see you?
Probably not.
Not how we actually are.
Yeah. Definitely not how we are. When people...
What do they think, do you think?
Bad things, like what they read in the newspaper, like... Yeah.
You described Carl once as the first man in your life who hasn't beaten you.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Is that what attracted you to him?
Yeah, because he was soft and gentle and always, you know, kind and helped me and was never aggressive in any way, shape or form.
Carlos.
So you were monitoring their phone conversations and listening to what they were saying?
That's correct. Having to listen to her tirade of abusive and foul language on a daily basis.
Tried to ring her, and then it went phone.
And then I thought, that I'm going to email him my family photo. That.
From your surveillance, what was your impression of the relationship between Carl and Roberta?
On again, off again. Thought it was more a matter of convenience on her part.
Carl, I got a close-up of your mouth.
Ex-wife Roberta was more angry about his many affairs than his murders.
So it was the girls who turned you off him, not the murders?
Yeah, because I didn't really look at the criminal side of it.
But there were moments of aggression, weren't there? Moments you tried to hit him with a pull cue.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a time when he shot at you.
Yes, when I was pregnant with Dakota, he did. I caught him at a girl's house that he was having an affair with. As we left the house and I went to get in my car, he started firing shots at me.
And you were pregnant with his baby?
Yes.
That's not soft and gentle.
No, that's not soft and gentle. It was kind of, yeah, that threw me back a little bit because Carl wasn't like that towards me.
She's just attracted by the money. She would jump on anybody that had the money.
There's no doubt she knew I was seeing other girls, but personally, I think she chose to ignore it because at the time I had a truckload of money and she could have whatever she wanted.
But in 2004, the reign of terror was over. Carl Williams was convicted and jailed for the murders of 4 underworld rivals: Louis Moran, his son Jason, Mario Condello, and Michael Marshall.
He pled guilty because the police were threatening to charge me and his dad. Carl just thought, you know, leave my wife and my father alone and I'll plead guilty.
Do you remember when he went to jail? Do you remember visiting him in jail?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was just normal for me. Like, that's all I really knew.
Because people see him as a killer.
Yeah.
Is that hard to hear?
No, because I don't see him
yeah,
like that.
We know what he's like. Like,
so
Mum always tells us, like, you judge things as you see them, like, not as anyone else does. And, like, as long as you see things in that way, like, that's all that matters. As long as you're happy, like, that's all that matters. So, like...
Do you understand what happened in the Gangland Wars? Or is that like a different world, a different life?
Yeah, like...
It's like we know our dad as our dad. So we know him as fun and loving and caring for us and always made us happy.
And if people met him too, they'll probably think the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, some people probably wouldn't think.
yeah. But I think a lot of people, like, if you sat down and spoke with him and, like,
then you think, oh,
seen him in the way
so
that we
different.
do, you would understand.
And you accept he did those things?
Yeah.
And that doesn't change your view of him
No.
as a father?
Carl Williams was sentenced to 35 years for 4 murders. But Roberta now says there were more.
How many are we talking about?
Maybe 2
2 more murders.
that I have, you know, names have come up on his computer.
But for now, she won't name names.
But today's visit was the best visit I've had with you in a long time.
For 6 years, Roberta would visit her ex-husband in prison.
Had a little cry and a little laugh. I felt really sad when I left there.
Watching you leave today's visit brought back memories. Today was the first time in a long time that I seen the old Roberta appear.
By the way, you are a bitch. You've now got me thinking of you overtime tonight. All good thoughts, of course.
But you have to think before you do anything, as you have to be a positive role model for the kids. More so Dakota.
Love you, Roberta. Love and best wishes, always and forever, Carl. I never read that letter.
I remember going in to visit him and I would lay on him and he would tickle my arm and my back and give me hugs. And one time I went in and he gave me a bracelet.
He wrote you a letter from jail. Dear Dakota, well, hello there, my beautiful daughter, who I love with all my heart. I'm so proud of you. You were the best daughter. There's no one better than you. It's right there. Can you read the second paragraph?
I'm going okay, just missing you like crazy. I'm trying to keep myself busy by learning things on the computer and playing games, which I'm enjoying.
I'm so proud of you. Lots and lots of love. Always and forever. Your dad.
And Brianna, this one he wrote to you.
Oh, is this about Mum? I know when her and I were together, I made a lot of mistakes, which I now kick myself for. But unfortunately, I can't turn back the clock.
What do you think he meant?
I don't know. Like, he was a bit of a cheeky boy.
Did he have regrets, do you think?
Not, like, to do with why he was there. Probably with, like... things to do with his and mum's marriage. But, like, him being there, no.
He had no regrets?
No.
Why not?
Because he did it for us.
I am guilty of defending myself and my loved ones from being murdered. That I am. And in the process, unfortunately, some people's lives were taken.
And you can tell that he did it for his family because he was all for us kids.
He was very protective.
Yeah.
And very caring?
Yes.
Were there two sides to Carl Williams? The soft, caring side we see in the letters to his daughters, and the cold-blooded killer.
What you're forgetting is Carl Williams wasn't there at the shooting. He didn't do the shooting. He didn't pull the trigger. He didn't have to experience the trauma of it all. So it was easy for him to excuse it and go on with his life and pat his kids on the head and cut their Christmas cake.
Why wouldn't he do it himself?
I think he was a coward.
In 2008, while Carl Williams sat in jail, his life was dramatised in the TV series Underbelly.
I watched that TV show for the first time the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder why people think we're ferals.
What did they get wrong?
Everything. My mum is like a proper Shaz.
You don't look like much. But you got balls, haven't you?
My mum speaks like a full Bogan.
Too late. It's too late, all right?
Mum drinks in it too. She drinks alcohol. Carl smokes cigarettes in it too.
Carl Williams.
The guy who plays him is so docile.
Different to the way you remember him.
Yeah, it's a funny show, but far from the truth.
But for the real Carl Williams, life was less glamorous. Locked in high security, passing time by writing letters. Some fantasies written to girlfriends.
As I was making love to you, you were biting my ear and talking dirty to me.
Because of the TV drama about his life, Carl Williams developed a bizarre cult following.
I received about 50 cards tonight from people all over Australia wishing me luck. And among them were a few girls. Half my luck, eh? It's good to know I still haven't lost my touch.
Roberta was shocked to find in the letters that one woman she trusted to take Dakota on visits to the jail was exchanging raunchy letters with Carl.
At the time, I never thought twice about it because she tried to put the point across that she was somewhat of a tomboy like myself and she didn't sleep around, and to read those letters were quite disgusting, to say the least.
As the TV drama showed, Carl had always been popular with the girls. But in real life, while he was behind bars, one woman stole Carl Williams' heart.
You don't know me, or at least I don't think you do. Anyway, my name is Stacey. I'm from the western suburbs. I'm a hairdresser. I do look forward to hearing from you. I'm 20, and I think you're sexy.
After receiving this letter, I decided to write back to her, which I don't normally do.
Why would a woman contact someone who's in jail for murder?
I've got no idea, but I mean, that's always been the case. Number of women would always, want to meet these people and marry them or go out and visit them and all the rest of it in jail.
For 2 years, Carl was besotted with this woman. She would visit him 3 times a week. They were engaged to be married.
Stacey, from the moment I knew you, I was in love with you.
But then Carl accused her of seeing other men.
I guess it's safe to say that the last thing in the world I wanted to think was that you were a lying slut.
Carl also used his computer to compile lists of his favourite things.
You talking to me?
His favourite book, a Robert De Niro biography.
You talking to me?
His favourite music, Cat Stevens. Even his favourite recipe. At number 1, smoked salmon pasta.
The police recently came out to see me again. They said if I'd be prepared to jump on board with them, they'd give me virtually anything I asked for.
In 2008 and 9, Carl Williams confided in letters to friends that he'd begun negotiating with police.
Yeah, I'm only human. And I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't like a big slice taken off my sentence.
Former detective Jim O'Brien started the negotiations.
Certainly I'd been involved in a number of conversations with him in the early part of that.
What did you talk about?
Basically police corruption. He'd been approached to do certain acts by corrupt police, and for that he may receive a discount on his sentence.
But when Jim O'Brien retired, other police assigned to the case offered Carl Williams a better deal. The payment of Dakota's school fees and the payment of his father George's tax bill.
That would never have been on the table from me.
Why not?
Because at the end of the day, as a witness, he had very limited value in that a convicted murderer doesn't make the best Crown witness in front of any jury, and it doesn't matter how much lipstick you put on a pig, it's still a pig.
In prison and out, Carl leaned heavily on the counsel of his father, fellow criminal George Williams. Now he turned to his dad for advice on making a deal with the police.
Yesterday, I spoke to my dad about all these offers of late, and he said to me, if they want you to talk about coppers and you know anything at all about them, go for it and do whatever you can to help yourself.
He was probably dictated to by what his father at that stage, who was alive at that stage, would tell him to do. He certainly wouldn't do anything without his father's imprimatur.
Did he show any remorse in those conversations?
None.
Carl Williams had always been close to his mother, Barb. With Carl in prison, Barb doted on her granddaughter, Dakota. But in 2008, suffering depression, Barb committed suicide.
An empty bottle of prescription tablets and a glass were found alongside her bed. Barbara, in her early 60s, had been severely depressed for 12 months.
You were the best mother that I could have ever wished for. Your love was unconditional.
Tell me a story, tell me a story, and then I'll go to bed.
At the funeral, Dakota sang their favourite song before leading her grandmother's procession from the church and releasing doves. At Barwon Prison, Carl Williams now shared the high-security Acacia unit with a prisoner called Matt Johnson. Known as the General, Matty Johnson headed the so-called prisoner of war gang.
Matty's back here. Luckily, he's good company. We get along well.
In his letters, Williams talks of Johnson as a mate and seems unaware of the risk close at hand.
I'm told that because I'm high profile, someone could harm me. But it could happen to anyone who's locked up, not just me.
On this computer, we've discovered Carl and Matt played this game, fighting each other in the virtual world. But Matt Johnson's real-life suspicions were growing.
Obviously read me wrong. See, because I've been so nice for 2 years to him. Tried to school him how to do jail. You know, the proper way. Wouldn't have a borough.
Here in the exercise space they shared with one other prisoner, the two trained together. Carl went from 110 kilograms to 85. But Johnson discovered that Williams was talking to police. He later said it was kill or be killed.
He was going to take me out because he knew that I knew things that I could tell people outside what he was up to. Pretty like an evil, just a weak person.
On the night of April 18, 2010, the howls of inmates could be heard through Barwon Prison. Word had spread that someone among them was a dog, dobbing in fellow prisoners. The next morning, Carl Williams read on the front page of the Herald Sun that he was the dog, doing a deal with police. As Williams sat reading, Matt Johnson armed himself with a pole from an exercise bike. After the first strike, he rained down another 7 lethal blows. The General had beaten the Premier to death.
Somebody's just called and said, Carl's been killed. I collapsed on the floor and just couldn't believe it.
I got called into the office and my mum and stepdad and Brie were there and they were upset and crying and I wasn't sure why.
How on earth do I tell this little, happy little girl that her father's just been murdered?
They found Carl Williams with massive head injuries. The entire incident was captured on CCTV.
What did she say?
She said that Dad has gone to heaven with my nan, Andrew and Uncle Shane.
Then she said, my dad, not my dad, not my dad.
Roberta would later learn that it had taken officers more than 20 minutes to discover Carl Williams' body in the high-security unit at Barwon Prison.
I believe that somebody turned their blind eye to that. I mean, if a prison officer was grabbed from behind in that time, you can't tell me that there wouldn't be 30 prison officers running to that person's aid. Am I wrong? Am I right?
What I was surprised about, if he'd been my witness, I would have had him wrapped up in cotton wool. I certainly wouldn't have had him in a position of where his life could have been taken.
At Carl Williams' funeral, Roberta and her family arrived in a stretch limo. In her eulogy, she quoted their daughter.
She said, Mummy, don't be sad. Be happy, because Daddy's finally free.
What's the worst it's got? What's the toughest thing you've had to deal with?
Probably Carl passing.
Yeah.
That was the hardest?
Yeah.
As a family, how'd you get through that?
I feel like I'll never completely, deal with that.
We can't even just thinking about things and maybe looking at pictures, sometimes they still make us cry.